Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. You are listening to Richard Muti and the book he has written, The Charmer, and it is available as a Kindle book at Amazon.com and also at your local bookstores. And this book was written as a co-authored by Charles Buckley. Now, Richard, welcome back to our last segment. Um,
Thank you.
Welcome. We are going to talk about three things in this segment. Number one, how bizarre the third Reldan 3 was, how he was able to use tear gas and escape from the police custody, and what was the final conclusion, and how your co-author Charles Buckley completed the final judgment against Richard Robert Reldan, and also the fights that Susan Reeves' father, Arthur Reeves, did, and how he was able to get all that money not going to this criminal, instead used for a good charitable cause. So let's start from there.
Yes, and Ravi, I may point out that you're covering a lot of the most important points of the book, but in this 1 hour format, we can probably cover less than 20% of the actual details of the book, which are voluminous, and I think you said that they held your interest throughout. The Reldon in that second trial, not actually in the third trial, but in the second trial, just before the jury was to go out and deliberate, actually escaped from the courthouse using tear gas that he had somehow commandeered in the jail before he was brought over to the courthouse. He was able to get his hands on a tear gas canister, and when he was brought to the courtroom early before 9 o'clock, when the lawyers were preparing to make their summations in the case, he sprayed the tear gas at his guard, jumped out of a third-story window of the courthouse, and was able to run off to a nearby parking lot and commandeered a car and escaped into New York State. He was apprehended about an hour later. The police had set up roadblocks. He was apprehended about an hour later and brought back to the courthouse. The jury, of course, never knew about this. They weren't told about his escape because it would have prejudiced them, and it's up to the judge to keep extraneous information like that out of the minds of the jurors. So they were never told about it, and he was eventually convicted in that second trial, and the case was appealed, and he gained the right to a third trial when the conviction was overturned. And my co-author, Charles Buckley, took over the prosecution of the case for that third trial. And I mentioned at the beginning of the show what a great trial prosecutor he was. He's since retired, but he streamlined the case, called instead of the 60 witnesses that were called in the first two trials, he called only 40 witnesses, and was able to gain a conviction in that third trial without any extra witnesses being called, no serious, no flaws in the case whatsoever, and no appealable issues were presented. The case went in smoothly. Reldon was convicted of both both homicides, and was sentenced after that conviction to life plus 30 years. There was no death penalty in New Jersey at the time of those convictions. Death penalty was inoperative in the mid-1970s based on some U.S. Supreme Court cases. So New Jersey had no death penalty, so Reldon was sentenced to the maximum allowable at the time, which was life for one of the murders and 30 years to life for the other murder. And he was sentenced to consecutive terms in prison for those two murders, to run consecutive to all of the other prison terms that he had been sentenced to for the conviction trying to kill his wealthy aunt.
Okay, very good. So let's go to the money he got from his wealthy aunt after she died, and
Yes,
what was Arthur Reeve did to transfer it not to him but to a charitable institution.
that was a wonderful climax to this story. Arthur Reeve, the father of the second murder victim, Susan Reeve, learned about Reldon's inheritance. His aunt died in 2007, and Reldon inherited this pot of money. And Arthur Reeve learned about it, and he was able to, with some good legal assistance, was able to bring a successful lawsuit against Reldon for the death of his daughter, the wrongful death of his daughter. And Reeve was able to get a $10 million judgment against Robert Reldon, which effectively wiped out most of the money that Reldon had coming to him from his inheritance. There was some minor money left to him to buy food at the prison canteen and stuff like that. But basically, Arthur Reeve, the father of the victim, wanted to deprive Reldon of these funds so that Reldon would not have a good chance of being successful in any parole hearings. Arthur Reeve he's in his 80s now. He's a retired attorney, retired judge, and he has dedicated those funds from that successful lawsuit to his daughter's alma mater, Hollins College in Virginia. That's where his daughter had graduated from just before she met her untimely end. And all of that money now goes to the education of young men and women at the college. And Arthur Reeve has been tremendously supportive of this book. He feels that it told his daughter's story very clearly and carefully, and he actually has purchased 25 copies of the book to give to his family and friends. And he was very cooperative in our writing of the book. And actually, I included some pictures of him and his wife and his daughter. The book has a photo section that shows pictures of all of the main characters in the book.
Now, where is the photo section of this book? It's towards the end?
It's toward the end, yes. In the electronic version of the book, the photo section is near the end. In the print edition of the book, it's about in the middle of the book.
I see. Towards the end, right? Okay.
Yes, at the very end of the book in the electronic version, in the Kindle version.
Yeah, the Kindle version. Okay, yeah, okay, there
are all sorts of photographs. There's over 16 pages of photographs in the book. And, the reaction that you had to the book, Ravi, is the reaction that everyone who reads it seems to give us, that it's a tremendous read. Reads almost like a novel, but it's true. It's not fiction. It's true. And the book has been quite successful. We're still, believe it or not, more than a year and a half after the book came out. Tomorrow night we have a presentation on our book tour. We've had more than 30 stops on our book tour for this book. It's been well received wherever we go. Buckley and I have a book appearance and presentation tomorrow night in New Jersey, and we have another one on October 12th, and several more before the year is out.
Yeah, I see a picture of Reldon when he is 68 in 2009.
Yes.
And also when he was very young. And so I'm showing to my audience the two pictures, so
yes,
they can see those, and also a bunch of other pictures. Ladies and gentlemen, you should buy this book because it's a very fascinating book, and there are so many antiques during these mistrials. It's hard to keep all of them. That's why I thought that the bomb and the escape was on the second one, right? I thought it was on the third one. Very good. So the one good ending to this is Arthur Reeve, similar to O.J. Simpson's case, was able to transfer all that money for a good cause. So that is the silver lining on this very tragic story of what Robert Reldon did to all his victims. Richard, it's a fascinating hour for me. I don't know about you.
I enjoyed it very much. I have a Dallas connection, by the way. My daughter lives in Dallas, and
okay.
And I'm sure she will listen. She's actually running. She just ran in the Berlin Marathon in Berlin, Germany, this weekend, so she's not home right now to listen live, but I'm sure she'll listen when she gets back home.
I see.
She and her
Okay, very
family
good.
live in Dallas, yes.
We will be rerunning this, and when you come to Dallas, I think we should go on fly.
I hope so.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live, and our guest was Richard Muti, and his best-selling book, The Charmer, an award finalist for the USA Book News 2012 Best Book Competition, and it's available at Amazon.com and as a Kindle book. It is a very good reading, and I really enjoyed it. Richard, thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it very much.
Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.